Hi everybody, this is Cornelius Fischner from the Project Management Podcast. Before we start the show, I just wanted to make a quick service announcement here. I received an email from the PMI, the Project Management Institute, today, in which they are announcing that they are extending the low early registration cost for the PMI Global Congress 2005 in Latin America. So if you are in Latin America and if you are planning to attend the PMI Global Congress in Panama City on the 31st October to the 2nd of November this year, then go ahead. You still have until Friday the 21st of October to sign up for the low fee. And now, on with the show. You are listening to the Project Management Podcast. We bring project management topics to beginners and experts. Find us on the web at pmpodcast.blogspot.com or send your emails to pmpodcast@gmail.com. Hello and welcome to the 7th show. I am Cornelius Fischner. This is the Project Management Podcast for the 15th of October 2005, and today I'll introduce 3 new segments to the show. And in one of them, I'll tell you about my new project. You'll find lots and lots of goodies in today's show, so listen up. However, before we go into the main section of the show, I want to read a few emails that I have received over the past couple of weeks. The first one is from Mark Sliper from Holland. Mark had a review of my podcast on his website, in Dutch, of course, and since Dutch isn't one of the languages I speak, I asked him if he wouldn't mind translating it for me. His message? First of all, I like your podcast. That is also the reason I blogged about it. I'm working as a test manager at an insurance company, and I'm interested in project management. And here is the translation of his review. One of the podcasts I like and want to be sure to listen to is the Project Management Podcast of Cornelius Fischner. There isn't a lot podcasting about project management, as I may say, and that conclusion can also be said when listening to show number 5. In that show, Cornelius is reviewing some podcasts related to project management. I'm not very impressed about the content of the shows he is reviewing, so one can say there is still room in podcast land to start podcasting about project management. And of course, yes, I agree with Mark. There truly is room for more project management podcasts out there. Second message is from Michael Tiernan. He is out of Boston in the United States. He tells me not to apologize for any accent that I may have. If I hadn't said anything, he would have assumed that I am a native speaker. That is nice to hear. Thank you very much. Michael continues, I can't do any kind of project management, so I need to learn some of the groundwork, and I also need to learn what I don't know. But I responded to him that everyone knows and understands the basics of project management. After all, even just going shopping is a project. The trick of it all is to start on small projects and rigorously applying the methodology, the techniques, and the processes to these small projects, learn from it, and then moving on to bigger things. I also got 2 messages from Australia. The first one is from Trevor Lindars out of Sydney. He writes, I've been listening to your podcast since the first issue, and I believe that it's a good idea. I've been recently reading a fair bit on critical chain. However, I have not yet met anyone who has actually tried it out. Do you have any experience in this area? Could you do a show on it? I will do that, Trevor. I don't have personal experience myself, but I attended 2 seminars on critical chain project management. Both these seminars were delivered by Alan Elder. I immediately contacted Alan, and he agreed to do an interview here on the Project Management Podcast. As a matter of fact, he wants to start a podcast on management himself, so I'm helping him along the way there. The second Australian message is from David Garand, who writes to us from Canberra. I very much enjoy your podcast. I am a contract project manager, currently between contracts. I have been using this downtime to update myself on project management issues and topics. I very much enjoyed your review of project management podcasts. One that you may want to look at is The Vision Thing. It did a most interesting podcast on project management. I wrote back to David and told him that I'll be listening and reviewing The Vision Thing probably next week in my next show. I also asked him if he was at all aware of any differences in project management in the USA and Australia. And he wrote back to me saying, "The only area of project management that is uniquely Australian is that the most widely recognized certification here is the Reg PM certification from the Australian Institute of Project Management. Rather than being test-based, it is competency-based. Every 3 years, the project manager must provide evidence that they are working at the appropriate level of competency. This is a catch-22 situation, and it makes it rather hard to get into project management work, as a starting PM must find a job that does not require the Reg PM certification to build up the experience in order to get certified. The other big change here in project management in Australia is that the Australian federal government has become very project management focused in the last 2 years. Moving on to the main topic, where you will find lots and lots of golden nuggets of wisdom today. I am going to be introducing 3 new show segments today, and they are, firstly, Simon Says. Then we have Dear Diary, and we'll end the show today with the good, the bad, and the ugly. All 3 of these segments will be recurring items in shows to come, and we're starting today. So let us begin with Simon Says. Over the past couple of weeks, I had a very long email conversation with Chuck Tomasi. Chuck has his own podcast called Chuck Chat Technorama at chuckchat.com, together with Craig Steppe. Chuck recently moved into the role of a junior project manager, and in his show he will occasionally talk about his positive or negative experiences as a junior project manager. And Chuck has given me the go-ahead to cut and paste his reflections into my show right here on the Project Management Podcast, so you can hear what he has to say right here. You'll get to hear something new whenever Chuck has something new to say. But you may ask, why would I call this segment Simon Says when the guy's name is actually Chuck? Well, that's because of the game Simon Says. If you aren't familiar with it, this is a children's game in which one of the children takes the role of Simon. And this child will shout something like, "Simon says, jump up and down," and then everybody will jump up and down, and then Simon says, "Lift your right arm," and everyone is going to lift their right arm. But if the kid just shouts, "Lift your left arm," without beginning the sentence with the word Simon says, then you're not supposed to do it, and you get kicked out of the game if you do. And of course, the aim of this little Simon Says segment here is for you to listen and to do as Simon says, or in our case, as Chuck says. It's for all you junior project managers out there. Listen to what Chuck says, learn from what Chuck says, and then do what Chuck says. Enjoy! And now, Simon Says, The Trials and Tribulations of a Junior Project Manager, by Chuck Tomasi.
I have a tip from a junior project manager. That's my new role. Is I am a PM, but I am still wet behind the ears. So I'm going to be passing on any tips or tricks that I hear. This one
please do, Chuck.
I had to pass on because I heard it twice today. We had our bi-weekly status meeting with management, who is our customer for this. We're replacing our business system. Not to get into the details of the project, but when the project was concluded, my boss called me in for a quick post-mortem. And said, and gave me some friendly tips. You know, I realize I am little green and need to grow. So this one came as a friendly reminder. He said, you've got a lot of people there, and they're the experts on a lot of the subjects, so don't try to paraphrase them, let them talk. And I didn't really realize I was doing it at the time, and I kind of wish I had an audio recording or something to go back and go, oh, yeah, I guess I was. Because he was sitting at the other end of the table being very quiet. So if you ever get into that role and you've got subject matter experts and it's their turn to talk on the agenda, talking points, let them do it. So after we had our post-mortem a little later in the afternoon, his boss came by, who is the president, also the client, also, he's about as high as you go on the food chain without getting to the CEO, came by. He was in the meeting and said, you've got real smart people working on this team. You might want to let them talk when it's time to talk. Okay, point taken. So, I take it with a grain of salt and go, yep, I've got a lot to learn.
The next new segment today is called Dear Diary. I have recently been given a new project that will keep me busy for a few months here. My goal is to take you along on this journey by providing an audio diary of my work. You will hear all about my approach, my successes, my failures, and just everything about that crazy stuff that happens on a small IT project. In this first installment of Dear Diary, we'll start out with a quiz. I'll tell you a little bit about the project, and we'll end not just with one, but with 3 golden nuggets of wisdom for you here. Enjoy! Dear Diary, I got a new project this week, and things started to go wrong even before we got to the kickoff meeting. Let's see if you can figure out the mistakes. Here's some project background. My customer receives about 120 emails per day in one particular mailbox. About 25 to maybe 35 of these emails lead to actual work that his team of about 8 people need to perform. These emails need to be prioritized, worked upon, closed, archived, the original sender needs to be informed, etc. So it's pretty clear that the customer needs an incident management and workflow tool. So isn't it great that we already have something in place for another one of the customer's teams? They use a tool called Peregrine. So to start out the project, the customer sends us an email and an approved project request in which he more or less says that he would like to use Peregrine, similarly to how the other teams are using it, to solve his problem. Well, since this is my first contact with this particular tool, I seek out the experts in our department, talk about Peregrine in order to give myself some background for this particular project. I see about 4 to 5 people and I learn a lot about this particular tool. And it is during these discussions that my 15 years of project management experience suddenly awakens with a shriek, and it just gives me a hefty slap right in the face so that I also wake up. How many mistakes have you counted so far? If your answer is 2, then you and I are in agreement. Mistake number 1. Why is the customer only looking at about 35 out of these 120 incoming emails? And mistake number 2. Why did I follow the customer's suggestion and look at that tool before I even analyzed the problem? That realization was a bit of a rude awakening there, but frankly I prefer to make this kind of a mistake before I get too far into the project so I can actually fix it. And I began to understand, the customer probably doesn't really know what his problem is. All that he really knows is, I need a tool. And it's my job as a project manager at this point to realize that this tool-centric approach is wrong, and then turn the project around towards a process-centric approach. And that's what I did at the kickoff meeting. At the kickoff meeting, I more or less told the customer that the path that we had followed so far was wrong, and that we need to take a step back from what we're doing and start all over. You can imagine that I was more than just a bit apprehensive of how they might react to that statement. But once again, the old maxim was proven that if you are able to show to a customer that a different approach is likely to yield much better results for them, they are more than happy to follow your lead. At the kickoff meeting, we agreed that I would stop by next week for a whole day, observe how they work, observe what happens to these emails, how they get processed, how they get prioritized, and document all the findings in a business requirements document, and therefore creating the basis, describing the problem, and then move on. The day after the kickoff meeting, a manager of another department called me in and told me that you are making a mountain out of a molehill. So I stopped everything that I was doing right there and gave him my full attention. We talked for about 15 minutes, and in the end, it turns out that the information which he had been given about this project was incorrect, and thus leaving him with the impression that I was completely going down the wrong track. And based on this impression, he had concluded that his team, his own team, would be much better suited to actually solve the customer's problem faster and easier. Once we talked this over, he agreed that my approach was correct. Now, the funny thing is that I had wondered that same morning if I shouldn't pay this particular manager a quick visit and let him know what's happening. But somehow things just started coming in, piling up on my desk, and I totally forgot to go and speak to him. In support of my new approach, I also met with 2 other developers in our department who know the process of my customer in depth, to get some one-on-one knowledge transfer from them about the process before I actually go down and meet my customer next week. Now, that will really help me to get prepared for this project. And the similar one-on-one meetings that I had with the gentleman who knew about the tool, well, now they're just background info that I'll probably need, but it's no longer that important. And here, my dear diary, are the lessons that I relearned this week. Lesson number 1. Once again, the fact that the customer almost never knows what they want or need was reinforced. They need you as a project manager, yes. But more than that, they need you as a leader to tell them how to do things right. I knew that my turnaround was the right thing to do when at the kickoff meeting some of the customers' participants were really surprised that the original scope was so small that only 35 out of the 120 emails were included, and everyone was really glad about my suggestion to go back, take a step back, and first analyze the problem in depth and define a solution later. What you should learn from this is don't listen to the customer. Instead, listen to what your instinct tells you. Lesson number 2. Everyone, including me, has a tendency to fall into the tool trap. You see a problem and immediately you find a solution and you define the tool in order to solve that particular problem. Now, that is not inherently bad, as long as you are willing to take a step back, analyze the complete problem first, and then, based on this analysis, revisit the choice of your tool. Maybe it's the same tool, maybe it's a different tool, but the process is what counts. Now, my customer not only fell into the tool trap, but the customer also managed to pull me right into that tool trap with them. Only experience and my discipline to follow a project management methodology have stopped me from going down the wrong path for too long. What you should learn from this is to always take a step back, question your own actions and processes before continuing. Lesson number 3. 90% of a project manager's job truly is communication. In hindsight, I should not have let my work take over my life on Wednesday after the kickoff meeting. I should have listened to that little voice inside my head and walked over to the other manager that same morning and give him my feedback of the project. Had I done this, he would never have had the wrong impression, and his misunderstanding of the project would never have surfaced. Luckily, this was only a small issue that could easily be resolved by discussing it for 15 minutes or so. And what you should learn from this is to never forget the power of a quick personal feedback visit to a manager's office. So much for this week, my dear diary. Next time, we'll look at my adventures and learnings from the upcoming visit to the customer. And now we are ending the show today with the good, the bad, and the ugly. This is my review segment. I will have reviews of websites, project management books, other project management related podcasts, you name it. I'll talk about anything really that comes my way and can be reviewed. Do you know of a great project management website? Do you know of another project management podcast? Well, send it my way and I will review it here, and my verdict at the end will tell you whether it's good, bad, or ugly. I would like to start out this series of project management related website reviews with one of my favorites. The site is by Max Weidman and it's an absolute gem. If you go to his About Us site and you read his bio, you will see that Max has been around the block. Actually, he's been around the block 2 or 3 times. He's a former president and chairman on the board of the Project Management Institute, and he is also a distinguished PMI fellow. He has led projects for companies that many of us can just dream about. He has the kind of biography that is just enviable. The URL for the site is of course www.maxweidman.com. It is not a commercial site. Max does have books to sell and he advertises them on the site, but it is nothing in your face. There are no blinking and annoying banner ads, there are no pop-ups. This is really nicely done. The site is truly about value to the project management professional who is visiting here. As far as browsers go, I am a Mozilla fan, and I had absolutely no problem with Mozilla 1.17. I didn't try the site with Internet Explorer or Firefox. I assume that it works with them as well. The site is an open site, so you do not have to subscribe to any portion for it at all. There is no newsletter that you can subscribe to either. In regards to usability, I didn't really like the front page. It could use some cleaning up, it seems a bit cluttered. But the rest of the site I really enjoy. It's an absolute usability wonder. Everything is clear, everything is clean and well thought out. Only rarely can you find a site where you surf around and you'll go, this is nice surfing. I don't know if Max manages this site by himself or if he has somebody helping him, but whoever did this, they really know their stuff. As far as the content goes, what I didn't like is the fact that there is a newsletter missing. Max, if you listen to this, please, a man who has as much to say as you do, who doesn't have a newsletter or at least a blog, please, we aren't worthy to listen to your words, but we would love to. Why don't you write a newsletter? Why don't you write a blog and speak to us project managers out there? What I liked about the site is tons of free content, both by Max himself and by others. He has papers, he has guest articles, there are book reviews, and Max's musings. When printed, his sitemap is over 7 pages long. It is just astonishing how much information is available on these pages. Max also offers the Isicons. Those are quick reference guides to various issues and considerations on project management. Here's an example. Let's say you need arguments why your company should use project management. Well, that's Isicon number 1002A. You click on this Isicon and an 8-page slideshow opens up in a new window. On these 8 pages, Max gives you compelling arguments for the use of project management in your company. And these Isicons, they cover topics in the whole of the project management spectrum. Work breakdown structure, planning, risk, scope, PM models, PM forms, job descriptions, procurements, you name it. Everything is there. What I also like very much is the fact that there is a copyright statement on every page. It's constantly shown, and it tells you that you can use this work in your own projects, but it may not be used by businesses, neither commercially nor non-commercially. So you know exactly where you stand with everything that you see on these pages. Max is also the author of the Weidman Comparative Glossary of Project Management Terms. Well, have you ever wondered what a hammock is? Or how project success is defined? Or what a plugged date is? Yeah, well, Max's glossary gives you the answer. And a big portion of the terms of his glossary are available online. My verdict? If you want to hear the voice of someone who knows what he is talking about, go to www.maxweidman.com. His writings are entertaining, straightforward, and very well argued. His site is clean and easy to use. It offers a ton of free, high-quality content. Very well done, Max. That's it for today. Thanks for listening. In my next show, I will be taking a look at project management offices, and you can help by sending me your personal experiences, good, bad, or very bad, with project management offices. As always, you can find us on the web at pmpodcast.blogspot.com or send your emails to pmpodcast@gmail.com. And when you write, please tell me where in the world you are writing from. Finally, we have this. If you can keep your head while everyone around you is losing theirs, then you clearly haven't understood the plan. With that, don't forget to divide your project into phases to simplify planning. Until next time.